So we're going to start now. And we're going to be talking today about the use of multimedia elements with news and content. Content marketing has become such a big thing this year. It really is. Seth Godin, if you're familiar with who Seth Godin is, he's one of the authors who's very prolific in this area. If you haven't read any of his books, I would suggest that you do so. And he made a comment just a little while ago to say that content marketing is the only marketing left. So we're going to be looking at why multimedia with your text, no matter what you're doing with it, but for us as PR people, specifically with your news and your news releases, how important that is and why it is so important. 1 second, let's just get these slides to advance. There we go. All right, so this was a study that was done fairly recently by PR Newswire, as you can see, and they looked at a really large sample of their press releases. And because they have such good analytics and tracking capabilities, they were able to tell how many views various different kinds of press releases get. And by a view, they define that as meaning that somebody actually clicked on the headline where they saw it somewhere, and they clicked it and they opened the press release. So we don't know how long they stayed on it or whether they read the entire thing, but they viewed, they did open it and they did view it. So it's interesting to note that when you add an image, you see a 14% increase in views. When you add a video, you see a 20% increase. If you have image and video, you get a 48% increase. And if you have everything, an image, a video, something else, download, a PDF, a graphic, an infographic, an audio file, so any other kind of media, if you have more than one or two, you're getting a 77% increase in the views. People are very visual. They do not only want to see text anymore. So here's some of the analytics and their survey methodology of what they were looking at. So it was done looking at the analytics of PR Newswire using Omniture Site Catalyst. And they looked at data from more than 10,000 press releases and 200 multimedia press releases. All that information was compiled and compared, and this was done just a year ago. And as I say, a view means that when the reader had taken the step of clicking on the headline to open up the full press release, that was a view. So some of the really interesting information that came out of this study was to do with sharing. And in other webinars that I've done, if you've been on them before, we've spoken about the Pew State of the Media report from 2011, in which they stated that the one factor that they predict will affect news media the most in the next 10 years is going to be sharing. So text releases were shared on average just on 1 time per hour, but the multimedia releases were shared 3.5 times per hour. So you're getting a 3.5 times increase in sharing as well. So the views you're getting, if you have a lot of multimedia, could be anywhere from a 14% all the way up to almost 80% increase in views. And then how many times it gets shared is also definitely impacted by whether or not you have multimedia with your text release. So let's start with the images. You definitely should have at least, if nothing else, an image with your news release. And what kind of image should you put in there? It's got to be relevant. That's the first and most important thing. It's no good just saying, well, we need an image, and so we'll take some stock image and we'll just shove it in there because we need an image. It does need to be strategic. You've got to think about this as adding value. It's going to bloggers and journalists and to the public, but even for the public, they want to see an image that makes sense with that text, something that helps them to understand what's in the text. So you need to show whatever you're discussing in the text. If you're talking about people, if they're people you refer to, then let's see them. And we want to see the faces of the individuals. Funnily enough, images of crowds have the opposite effect. They turn people off. If you're talking about the product, then let's see the product and see some features of the product, perhaps places, things, whatever it is that you're discussing and talking about in the news release, let's see that in a visual format. We need the image to tell the story. So, you know the old adage is a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, let's see that picture that will tell us immediately. Our press releases are usually only around 400 words, so I'm sure a really good picture would be worth 400 words. So figure out how you can visually tell the story. And you want to demonstrate an idea. And if you absolutely can, we want original images. Stock photos don't go down all that well. They really want original images. So what can these images do for you? Well, first of all, they're going to get you more views, as we've seen. An image on its own, only about 14% increase in the views, but still, it's not to be sneezed at. So there are other things apart from that that you'll get from your images. If you use them correctly, they can give you more search engine optimization. That's the SEO, search engine optimization opportunities. Because you can, and I'm going to show you how to put tags into your images. Really good quality images give the website a better quality feel, so that the viewers who come, the visitors who come, get a more positive perception about your company. And funnily enough, gives the company more authority as a news source. Because, you know, if you think about it, if you look at a news website, it's full of images. So from a company newsroom point of view, you must have images. So you want to use tags. Now, a tag really is just a label. You're labeling these images in certain ways, but you're doing it using a thing called a tag that makes it easier for other websites like search engines and news aggregation sites to be able to categorize and file and index this image so that it's easy to find again. Now there's a thing called an alternate text tag, and you sometimes see it written like this, alt text, and you can put keywords into that alternate text tag. The purpose of an alternate text tag is actually for the disabled, people who are visually disabled, and they have screen readers who read the content to them. So when they're reading your news release and it comes across the image, it will read that alternate text tag, and the purpose of it is to describe the image, pardon, so that the person who is you know, that's using the computer and who can't see the image gets a feel for what it is. So go now to the last bullet point. When you take original images and you pull them off your camera and you put them onto your computer, 9 times out of 10, they're just labeled with a number, like image 457, whatever. Now, if you were a visually disabled person, and you were reading a news release about organic apples, and then it said, and they have an image here, image 457296. It would mean absolutely nothing to you. So use the alternate text tag in the way that it was intended, because bearing in mind the search engines can't read images either. So they're going to read the alternate text tag. And you want it to read like a description so that the search engine knows what that image is. It needs a descriptive name. And always put a caption underneath the photograph. So when you add tags to a PDF, you go to Element Properties, and you can see the two little fields that I've highlighted in red. The first one is the title, and the second one is alternate text. And that's where the title, you would just put the name of the picture, and then the alternate text, do the description. So here's another one. And this is when you could go to format picture. If the other one was for an element, this one is for a picture. And again, you'll see the title and the description, and it's the description that goes under alt text. You can do the same thing in a Word document. All you have to do is insert the picture into your Word document. If you're putting your press release in a Word document, you would add the image. You just go at the top on your navigation bar at the top of Word to insert, and then picture, and then you take it from your computer and you put it into the Word document. Once it's in the Word document, right-click it, and this little box that says Format Picture will come up. And you'll see it has a whole bunch of little tabs at the top. You're going to click on the one right on the right-hand side that says Web, the one that's highlighted and circled in red. And then it has a box for you to add the alternate text. So if you were going to send your press release in a Word document to anybody, you can add the images and add the alternate text with the image before you send it to them. Now there's some really interesting research information about where to put your images. And this may be a little contrary to what you had been doing, but this is based on very sound research that was done by David Ogilvy many years ago. And it still applies. We read in the West, we read from left to right. And there's a very natural sequence for reading. It goes in this order. First and foremost, if there is an image, that's where the eye will go. They will look at the image. Then they will scan the headline. And then, if the headline is interesting enough, they will read the rest of the body copy. So you know that they're going to look at the image first, and then they're going to scan the headline. So if you have the headline first, and then you have the image, you're going to lose, it's kind of like they don't see the headline. It more or less just wipes out your headline because you have, there's such an attraction to the image, they're going to look at that first. They won't then think to look up again to see if there's a headline. This is just the natural order. They're going down from left to right, but they're going to look at the image first. So you need to have your image above the headline. So here's a good example. They have a big image, and then you see in red there's a headline. It's not the greatest headline in the world, but it is a headline and it's below the image. Okay? And then they would go into the body. So headlines placed below the image are read by 10% more of the people than the headlines above. So it might not seem like such an enormous amount, 10%, but you are distracting them with an image in the wrong place. And just think that if you had a really big audience, 10% could be quite a big number. So, you know, it depends on how many visitors you get or how many views you get on your press release. But if you've been doing press releases and putting them on the wire on PR Newswire or PR Web or wherever, they all give you stats, and you should be looking at those stats. Analytics and statistics is not always something that PR people are trained to do, but in this digital age, it is absolutely something we have to learn to do, because everything can be tracked, and it is being tracked, and that's how we show our ROI. It's how we show our outcomes. So we need to know what kind of an audience we're getting on each press release, and we should be seeing, then, you know, we should know, let's say we had 145,000 people who viewed the press release, but if you had your image in the wrong place, you might have lost 15,000 people. That's a lot of readers. The reason that you put a caption under every single image is that captions get read 4 times more than the body copy. Their eye is already attracted to the image. They're going to read the caption right underneath. They may not go and read the entire press release, but they will look at the image and they will read the caption. Your images are drawing the eye away from the text, as I said. So make sure that when you write the caption, it reinforces all the message that you have in your press release. So your picture is going to tell the story, but your caption is also going to reinforce the message. In case they don't read the whole press release, let's get as much as we can, at least into this caption. And remembering that your caption is probably as long as your headline, you could craft your caption just as carefully as you would craft your headline. So here is one where there's a picture, and then there's the caption right underneath. The rest of it's not that great. They had the headline way up at the top, then they had a little introductory paragraph, and then they had the picture. They would have done much better if the picture and the caption was right at the top and then all the text. Now here's another interesting part of all of this. Being that we are in the West and we read from left to right, our eyes are trained to read from the left margin. Very often, we see images put on the left and the text is wrapped around the picture. What happens by doing that is you indent that left margin of the text, and that disrupts the viewer's reading when you do that. First of all, the image is going to attract their attention, and moving the left margin is going to distract them. So that's not going to be a great thing to do. It's going to work better for you if you put your images on the right and leave your left margin totally justified, the way that it is here. Mistake on this one, no caption. Okay. So look at this one. You see they've got little images all over the place, but the one on the left, where I've got the arrow, you can see that the left margin of the text is pushed right in to make space for the image. And that actually disrupts a person who's reading it. So that's not such a great idea. All right, so that's your images. Let's go on to the videos, and if you add a video to text, so this would be text and video only. That gives you a 20% increase in your viewing. So here are some stats of videos. Time on page and time on site also increases when you add video. So with a news release, it's just that you're going to get more views, but if you bring them back to your site and you have video on your site, the actual time on the page is going to increase. And the numbers that we've seen that are watching video every month is just growing and growing every month. Way over 80% already, you can see, are averaging 10 hours of video a month. One that I saw just recently from a study that I thought was very interesting is that in the last 6 months of last year, CEOs are starting to use video. So beforehand, we used to think that perhaps it was only the youngsters that were doing it. We are now getting also the C-suite executives are watching video for business purposes. So you should really think about using your video as much as you can. It helps you in your search and the search visibility for your news, because Google and all other search engines are very, very focused on using video. They are giving it a lot of extra weight in their search algorithm. So it's helping you to get found. And when visitors come to a website or they're looking at a piece of content, they will look for video content. You should, of course, be posting your video with your news release. It should be posted on your own website in your newsroom, but it must also be put onto YouTube. YouTube is the second biggest search engine, right after Google, and of course it belongs to Google, so Google loves YouTube. And we also see that the sales teams are saying that it increases their close rates and online registrations if you have video. So video is really making a big impact. If you have something in your press release where you have a link and you're trying to drive them to a certain page somewhere else, you're wanting to do something with them, like get them to download a white paper, register for a webinar, do something else, having a video is going to help you to increase those conversions. Now we've decided not to move again. Come on. There we go. So what are people looking for in video content? These were some actual comments from a survey about video content and what people are looking for. And you'll see certain things come up time and again, where you learn something. Not fluff, not sales pitches. Get to the point. Fast, snappy, get to the point. Sharp, to the point. Now that's also interesting from the point of view of what YouTube regards as a view. Often when we look at branded video, we see there's a fairly long introduction. There's the brand, like intro screen. Sometimes there's music, sometimes there's some other introduction, and then you only get to the real video content. As you can see from this, people are very impatient. It's give me the facts, I want it now, get to the point, quick, fast, snappy, short, get it to the point. So if somebody's watching your video, they see the image, they see the headline, it looks interesting, they see there's a video, they're going to go and click that. And then if they run into like 30, 40 seconds of branding and messaging, I guarantee you they're going to click out. And YouTube does not regard a view until they have watched it for at least 10 seconds. So you really need to get just, your branding's got to be zip a second or two and into the content. And you have to grab them right from the beginning. Give them really substantial information, something that's valuable, something that they can learn, something they feel that they got something out of, but something that was really interesting. No hype, no sales pitch. They want great content, clear audio, something that makes me laugh or smile, useful, actionable information, and a story. A story, and this is a thing that PR people are really good at, is creating engaging, interesting stories that within the process of telling the story, there is lots of useful and actionable information. So we do know how to do this, and we know how to produce stories and videos that people will like. So we should be doing this, and keep them short, people. We don't want 5-10 minute videos. They're not going to watch it. You've got to get all of this into like maximum 2 minutes. And you've got to be in and out. So we've done this for video news releases where it was put on the news and it was maximum 3 minutes. Now we have to get it down to 2 minutes. But we do know how to do it. This was very, very interesting. This is from a study that was done by a company called AimClear. And they were looking at when people, the acronym here, SERP, it's Search Engine Results Page. So when people search in Google, what kind of intent query, so what did they type in, what are they looking for? If you have informational keywords in the title of your video, things like how to, or learn, or what is, or the history of, or something like that, that when I see that title, I know I'm actually going to learn something. That gets 84% more ranking in search. So if it's just navigational, like where do you go and what do you do, that's 18%. Transactional is like buy this, very sales-oriented, 12%. But it's the informational videos that people are really looking for. So you want to put a title and a description with your video. And you need to add a link. YouTube will allow you to put a link in the description field. When you're adding your video to YouTube, you put a title in, and then there's a space for you to do a description. So you have to put the description in with the keywords, and you have to add a link. It's very important that you add your link. So this will just show you how important YouTube is. This is for Google. When people are looking in the search engine results pages in Google, look at this, 84% of the videos that Google is showing in their search is coming from YouTube. The Google Video, a tiny little bit, 1%, Meta Cafe, 2%, Dailymotion, 3%, and then there are others. There are other, like Vimeo and Reva and different places. But it's 84% YouTube is showing up in Google. So you absolutely have to have all your videos in YouTube. So then we go to the last one, it's adding graphics as well. So you have your image, you know what to do with your image, you know where to put it. You have your video, you should have as well as an image. It should also have titles and descriptions, and it should be on YouTube, and you know it should be optimized for search. But when you have graphics as well, if you put all of that in, you're going to get a 77% raise in the views on your site. I mean, on your press release, I beg your pardon. So it really pays off to do all this extra work. And when you put out a text press release, to look through it and see how can, even when you're crafting the press release, how can I write this press release so that I can I will have a really good image to go with it. I can make this part of it into a little video. I could interview this person that we've quoted and get a 1-minute really good interview to expand on his quote. Or if we're talking about some product release, or you're in the hospitality industry, you're talking about a destination, there are a million things you could put into a video. If you're business to business and you're talking about some more technical thing, you can add PDFs, you can add more documents, you can put PowerPoint slides with it, you can put a white paper, and then you can put other graphics. And infographics are really catching people's attention right now. So these are just 2 examples from the top 10 infographics of 2011. The whole idea of an infographic is that many of the pieces of news that we're putting out have a lot of data in them. And they're quite complex and they're not that easy to understand. So it helps when you visualize it. The whole point of an infographic is the visualization of data. And the point of it is to make it easier for people to grasp what you're telling them and give it to them in a format where they can see it visually, and it has a much bigger impact. So if you don't have any graphic designers within your agency or your company, there are many places that can do this for you who specialize in making infographics. So this would be a good way to design your news release. This is the original from, I hate to say it, like maybe 5 years ago, from Shift Communications on how to do a social media press release. And you can see they have the headline, and then they have all of the graphic material in a line together. So you're not pushing your left margin in strange places. You have all the multimedia together. That was the original way. So here are some other ideas. These are just different examples from people's newsrooms where I've seen them using multimedia. So this one, they had all their content down here. Then they had 4 images with little captions at the bottom. They had the photos, all with captions, very good. And then on the left, they have their featured videos. So the content is on its own. It's all left justified. The images are not breaking up the text. So everything is kind of in the place. The one thing I would want is a big picture above the headline that really grabs you and tells the story. So here's another one. This was from MarketWire. They do their social media press releases with everything on the left. So here's just another way that you could do it. You have the big image at the top, then you have the headline, and the headline, in fact, acts as a caption for the main image. Then you would put the body of the text, you could have the image, and you could have the infographic. And just one more thing that I wanted to really make sure that you are familiar with and that you don't forget to do. When you put your video up onto YouTube, you will see that there is a little button that says share. It's at the bottom of the screen here, and it's outlined in red. So if you click that, you get another little button which says embed, and I've outlined that one at the top in red. If you click that, this is what you get. It's the bottom one where it's highlighted in blue, and that is the embed code. All you have to do is copy that and make it available with your video when you put it in your press release, because 76% of all journalists and web editors today say that they want, that's what they most prefer. That's how they want to get their videos. They want an embed code. The embed code means they can just copy and paste this little piece of coding and put it into their blog or into their content management system of their news website. And in 2 seconds, this video will display and actually play on their website. It's that quick. It's just this tiny little piece of code. Yes, they know that they could go to YouTube and go and get it, but journalists and bloggers are under a lot of pressure. And if you're pitching them and you want them to use your material, you need to service them and spoon feed them a little bit. So they have asked for this. They said, whenever you use a video with a news release, give us the embed code. So this is how you find it. You go to YouTube, you put your video in YouTube. When it's in there already, you go to the share button, you click share, you click embed, you get your embed code here that it will be highlighted like this. It comes up like that. All you do is go copy, Control-C, and go and put it into your news release. Right under the image, put embed code for image and then paste it so they know that it's there. For images, they would like you to give them the actual image info and the URL where they can get the image. What you do is you right-click the image, and it'll bring up a little menu of options. One of them will be View Image Info. So you click that, and then this comes up. And the one that is highlighted is the one that you want. I've circled it in red there. But it's also here under location. You can see it's the same thing. So again, you can copy that and you can put it underneath the image and say, this is the source URL for this image. Again, all they have to do is go and put it into their content management system and it will totally show up. All right, so just again to give you the reason why we're doing this is okay, I thought I'd lost you for a minute. That we know that we want to get more people looking at our, we need to get more people looking at our news releases and our news content. So when you look at this, yes, this is more work. Yes, it's a lot of preparation. It's things we didn't ever have to do before. But it's going to give us 77% increase in the views of our news. That is something we just can't possibly ignore. And it's not that hard. We need these skills. These are the new skills of PR. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy if you just put them into under questions. I'm just looking to see where I can find them here. There we go. Okay. Let me see. There are some here. Let me just see. Great. The question about the slides, I always post my slides onto SlideShare, and I will send you the URL for that in a day or two. Within a week, the recording will be on our PRESSfeed newsroom, and we will also email you all the recording, which will have the slides and it will and the audio. There's a question about balancing the images and do you want them on the left and the right. I get that from a design point of view you want to do that, but from all the research that we've done on how people read online, if you can put them on the left so that you don't move the left margin so that you're not interrupting their flow of reading, I'm sure that would be fine. It's just that indenting that left margin is breaking the flow of their reading. Just get this reset this question. There was a question about how do you embed videos in a Mac. I'm not a Mac person, but if you can email me the question, we have Mac people here in the organization, and I will get that answered for you. I know that when you use the embed code off YouTube, it will work on anything. Amy, you were asking a question about linking in the description. What you should link to is some other content on your site or in your newsroom that gives more information about that video. The other reason you want to do it is because that gives you a link from YouTube to your site. And YouTube is a very high authority website, so it will help your SEO as well. No, I wouldn't link to the press release. I would link to some other content within the website that gives more information about what the press release is about. There's a question, how would I recommend doing infographics for a celebrity client? Well, perhaps you have lots of information about what they've done, or say for a singer, how many copies each record has sold over the time. How many of them, how many movies have they made, and how much money did those movies make? What kind of movies do they make? Some celebrities are involved with causes. Maybe you could talk about the causes that they support and what they've done and how that has helped. Let's say they support young women and they want to make young women more aware and empower them. You could do an infographic on how their involvement with that cause has done over the years. Another question, do you recommend posting to your company's newsroom just slightly ahead of the wire service? Yes, I do. It's not 100% guaranteed that Google will then see you as the source of the news release. This is really why you want to do it. Sometimes they still will give the newswire because it's such an authoritative site. But we do like to have it on our newsroom first, because very often Google will index there first. If you've been posting a lot in the newsroom and you have social elements in your newsroom, you have an RSS feed, and you've trained the Google spiders to come every time that there is something new in your newsroom, then the RSS feed will ping Google and say we have new content. As long as you have that system running, then Google will see it there first. And that is a good idea. Okay, so we've covered all the questions. If you have more questions or you think of them later, I'm always available to help you and answer your questions. You can reach me on Sally, S-A-L-L-Y, at PRESS-feed.com. PRESS-FEED.com. Sally at PRESS-feed.com. And if you just send me anything, if you have questions, send them to me, and I'd be more than happy to help you. And if you're concerned about how your newsroom is coping, we do evaluations of newsrooms and what they need to get up to speed with all these social elements. And if you're interested in seeing, beg your pardon, seeing a demo of the PRESSfeed social newsroom so that you see everything that should be in the newsroom. In fact, we have, where did I post that? I have a checklist that you could use, which I think is on here. Let me just go and check. In my blog, which is called proactivereport.com. Not this one, it's the one before. That one. So here's a long checklist that you can go and look at to see how your newsroom is doing. You find it on my blog, proactivereport.com. And if you follow me on Twitter, it's @SallyFalco. I am posting about all these things every single day. And every day I give you just two or three things that you should read to keep you up to speed in what's happening in PR and social media. So thanks very much for listening, and the recording will be ready within a week, and then we'll email you and let you know where it is, and then you can share it with friends. Thanks very much, and I hope to see you on next month's webinar.